I know that time is of the essence, Sir Roger, and I will therefore be speaking briefly to Plaid Cymru's amendments in this group today. They are new clause 158, new clause 159, new clause 160, new clause 162 and amendment 90. And with your permission, we are very much hoping to push new clause 158 to a vote. The bill as it stands is the biggest job-killing act in Welsh economic history. It may be short, but it's loaded. Loaded with a Brexit that pays no regard to the promises made during the Vote Leave campaign. This is not a bill that ratifies the referendum result. It's a bill that endorses the UK government's Brexit plan. We don't accept that the Prime Minister's extreme Brexit is what drove people to vote leave. They were swayed by a torrent of false promises, and new clause 158 is designed to hold the Brexiteers' feet to the fire. The new clause would allow for proper scrutiny of the government's plans to uphold their pledge of continued levels of funding for Wales before triggering Article 50.
The honourable gentleman represents a rural constituency like mine. Would you like to remind the House of the promises that were made particularly for our rural community, especially bearing in mind that 90% of our exports go to the single market?
Well, I think he's making the point I'll be making later in my speech. We have promised complete no detriment, and that was the promise and the pledges made to the people of Wales.
I thank the honourable gentleman for giving way, and I can offer my full and wholehearted support for new clause 158. To show my new clause 157 wasn't selected, similar intent. And does he agree? Does he share my concern that, despite repeated questions to the government, they have refused to guarantee that Wales will not be left a penny worse off as a result of leaving the European Union?
I thank him for his intervention and for his new clause, and we would have been delighted to support that new clause, and that is exactly the point I'll be making during my contribution and my points in relation to this particular new clause.
I'm grateful to the honourable gentleman for giving way, and further to the point made by my honourable friend, the member for Cardiff South and Penarth. Would you agree with me that what the government has failed to do is to guarantee EU funding post-2020, which is what was promised in the referendum?
Exactly, that is a very pertinent point, and why this new clause is so important, and why I'm happy actually that Labour colleagues will be supporting us in the lobbies if we get the opportunity later, because the UK government's white paper, of course, which was published only last Thursday, was a complete whitewash in relation to these pledges. And surprisingly, Sir Roger, it made no commitment to uphold the funding pledges, which I have no doubt proved very persuasive in Wales. And let's remember that the estimated net benefit, and I emphasise net benefit, from the EU for Wales in 2014 was around £245 million, and that's equal to around £79 per head. We will not accept a penny less from the UK government, because that was the specific pledge of the Leave campaign in our country, not one single penny less. After all, the leader of the Conservatives in Wales, just over a week before the vote, and to huge publicity, said that, and I quote, "Funding for each and every part of the UK, including Wales, would be safe if we vote to leave." This statement was made following an open letter written by Tory frontbenchers, some of whom have been promoted to the Cabinet and hold Brexit portfolios. And they made the same promise.
I'm grateful to the honourable gentleman giving way, and I too will be supporting his amendment 158 this evening in the lobbies if it's called, and also I would have supported 157. He's making the important point. Does he agree in this group of amendments what we're talking about is the joint ministerial committee would be a vehicle where Welsh First Minister on behalf of the Welsh Assembly would be able to make that case and hold the government to account?
No, I welcome the honourable gentleman's intervention, and I'll be supporting that new clause put forward by the Labour Party frontbench in this group if that's pushed to a vote. And he's completely right, because at the moment the UK government ministers may as well go into those JMCs with their headphones on their iPods on. They don't have to listen to a word that the Welsh government say, or the Scottish government say, or the representatives from Northern Ireland, because there's no leverage to what is discussed in those GMC, and we need to firm up those processes. The extreme Brexit favoured by the UK government takes no account of the economic geographic divergence which exists within the British state. The Welsh economy is heavily driven by exports, and 2/3 of our goods go to Europe. To willingly block these vital economic arteries would be an act of calamitous self-harm. 200,000 jobs in Wales are sustained by our trade with Europe, and as someone whose job it is to represent the interests of my constituents and compatriots, I have a responsibility to do all I can to mitigate this bill's intentions. This brings me to new clause 159, which requires the government to explore a differentiated deal for Wales within the European Economic Area. The unprecedented task that lies ahead for the UK will inevitably require flexibility and indeed imagination. We have made clear on a number of occasions that if the UK Government gives us the assurance that Wales will keep its membership of the single market and the customs union, then we will support the bill. The Government has already conceded, and rightly so, that flexibility will be required to avoid a hard border between the Republic of Ireland and Northern Ireland. And let's point out at this stage, Sir Roger, that the joint Welsh Government Plaid Cymru white paper makes the case for continuation of full participation for Wales within the single market and the customs union, and that, in other words, is membership.
Does he agree that the extraordinary attitude taken by the government and by the Prime Minister today about the status of the United Kingdom is an entirely false one? That as far as agriculture is concerned, the United Kingdom doesn't exist. The powers are exercised by the Welsh Government and the EU. And what is happening, if this goes through, is it's an attempt by the government to take back powers that have already been devolved to Wales and Scotland and Northern Ireland.
Well, the right honourable gentleman, as always, is totally correct, and I will be getting to that point later in my speech when I talk about shared competence and perhaps some of the constitutional reforms that will have to be made following Brexit. In a similar manner, concessions have reportedly been made for certain sectors of the economy, and we've already heard those sectors mentioned in the debate, not least Nissan in Sunderland, of course, and as we would expect, the City in London. Through tabling this amendment, we are calling on the Government to show Wales similar levels of consideration by committing to consult on a territorial exemption when the Prime Minister drags the UK out of the single market.
I do thank the honourable member for giving way. I asked last week whether there could be guarantees in relation to tariffs for Ford, that there would be no tariff for Ford engines built in my Bridgend constituency being exported into Wales. And I was told, well, no, there couldn't be a guarantee, but there was a commitment. Is a commitment good enough for Wales? No. Is it good enough for the United Kingdom, given that we are now 1.8 trillion in debt, a national debt that is growing by over £5,000 a second?
No, the Honourable Lady is completely right to talk about the fears for Ford in Bridgend, which is a major employer, and I pay tribute to the courage of her convictions last week when she voted against the Labour whip. Vote Leave campaigned on a platform of sovereignty. They claimed they wanted decisions made as closely to the people as possible. New Clause 160 would allow precisely that to happen. It would require the National Assembly for Wales to endorse any final agreement on the terms of exiting the European Union, thereby ensuring that Wales is fully involved in the process and its needs are met. The Supreme Court ruling, which has been referred to in this debate tonight, which concluded that the Sewell Convention has no legal weight, confirms our long-held suspicion that devolution and the very principles it champions is built on sand. Indeed, the UK Government, in its submission to the Court, went out of the way to emphasise the supremacy of this Westminster Parliament over the devolved parliaments. Within the UK, Sir Roger, it seems that some parliaments are more equal than others. Indeed, the Supreme Court ruling is why NC 160 is needed. If the British state is a partnership of equals, this is the opportunity of the UK Government to prove it. The Prime Minister, however, quite obviously recognises there is a political duty on her to consult with the devolved administrations, if only to save her own reputation. After all, she does not want to go down in history for breaking up two unions. Without the leverage of a vote on the final terms, then Wales's input holds no weight. The Brexiteers are ploughing ahead with their hardest of brutal Brexits. The Prime Minister's plan speech on the 17th of January this year, may I add, was before Plaid Cymru and the Welsh Government had an opportunity to submit their white paper for consideration. Both New Clause 162 and Amendment 90 deal with the issue of repatriated powers and the constitutional future of the British state. On the UK's withdrawal from the EU, powers will be repatriated to the UK, the point made by the member for Newport West. A determination will need to be made about those powers which are in devolved areas. At the moment, there is little experience within the British state of shared competence. Serious thought and consideration needs to be given to the future of the UK's constitutional structures. We are in danger of constitutional turmoil if not.
Well,
powers...
The honourable gentleman is making an important point, and does he not agree with me that the problem, I think, with some of the speeches we've heard from the opposite side tonight is that they simply do not get that this is not a unity constitutional state anymore. We have those separate administrations. How is the UK internal single market going to work? Has the government given any thought to these things? I don't think they have. Does he agree with me?
I completely agree with the intervention, and that's why I think our new clause 162 is important in having that wider debate. It seems to me that members opposite are riding complete roughshod over the views of members of Parliament representing Wales and Scotland, and I think that's a very, very dangerous precedent.
Thank the honourable gentleman for giving way. In all his remarks, he skates over the fact that this was a United Kingdom referendum, and the people of the United Kingdom voted to leave the European Union, and what's more, the people of Wales voted to leave the European Union. He ought to respect the people of Wales who made that decision as much as the people of the United Kingdom.
Well, Sir Roger, I'm not questioning the referendum result. I'm trying to work out what happens next in the interests of all the people that I represent in Carmarthenshire and the people of my country, Wales. Powers repatriated which straddle both devolved and reserved subject areas must be dealt with effectively, and the National Assembly must retain its autonomy. By taking back control, the Prime Minister must not mean rolling back on devolution. New clause 162 would provide an avenue for this by committing the UK Government to conduct a review into the UK's constitution.
I thank the honourable member for giving way, and it's on that point I wanted to ask him that does he agree with me that the likely rejection of his amendment by the benches opposite, along with their put down of every attempt to try and get some meaningful consultation with ministers in Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland, belies a deep arrogance where they actually think that this process means that British ministers can override ministers in Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland on matters which pertain to those countries?
Well, I'll go further than the honourable gentleman, and I agree with exactly what he says. I think my great fear is that Brexit will be used by the UK Government and by the Conservative Party to derail and undermine devolution in its entirety. In a similar manner, Sir Roger, Amendment 96, clarity regarding laws repatriated from the EU. I don't usually make a habit of quoting the leader of the Conservatives in Wales.
I hear what the member is saying, but does he agree with me? But what we need more than anything else at this moment is mutual respect of the devolution settlements, and we're doing our best to achieve consensus wherever possible.
Fully agree with the honourable gentleman's comments. I think the amendments put forward by the SNP and Plaid Cymru and by the Labour Party are endeavouring to achieve that, and it's been a source of great regret, I think, tonight that they've been taken completely opposite, so badly by the government benches. As I was saying, Sir Roger, I don't usually make a habit of quoting the leader of the Conservatives in Wales, but in this instance he has made another fitting statement to which I will hold his party to account. I quote him, "No, this won't be the last Wales bill," he said in an LBC interview last month, and I carry on, "Brexit will require devolution changes to realign those responsibilities." So there we have it, Sir Roger. The devolution settlement meant to last a generation, which only received royal assent last week, is already redundant. I will finish by reiterating this. On the 23rd of June, nobody voted to lose their jobs, nobody voted to become poorer. My colleagues and I will be doing everything possible to avoid this from happening and to ensure that the interests of the people of Wales are protected.